Hi everybody, and thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank Cody and the team, and also Eve and Skylight Books. I think the last time I was in Skylight was to see Lydia Yuknovich read, and I can't even tell you what time of year that was prior to COVID. It just feels like a lifetime away. But I really love your bookstore, and this story is inspired, kind of nearby. So I do want to talk about some of the inspirations, some of the places and the observations of LA that helped create the story. But I love California sunsets since I was really young. I like that wash of color that sort of bronzes the land. And these sunsets are an exotic wonder to a Midwesterner, which I am one. But I've been here for a while, and I always say this, I really love this town. I love Los Angeles. But I've also witnessed or known people affected by stories that are so big, as if a story like that happened where I'm from in small town America, I'm from a small city, it would be the #1 story, headline news, and everybody would be talking about it. But out here, there are nonstop, stunning stories every day. It's LA, right? You either flourish or you fall. So I have one such story, and it is, I'm going to read a little bit of what I've written here. It's a live news story, and it made me wonder just how much beauty could be backed up against the ugly, hard reality of Los Angeles. And what do we look away from? And who gets lost? So that's really what's happening in my story, Empty Glass. And the first line says that Izzy was the life of the party before she was the death of it. So I have a little bit of writing here and explanation as I go. So again, as she said, around Silver Lake, in one of those mid-century homes that has like the grotto in the background and the big pool, Izzy, the character named Izzy, is struggling to be seen, to be heard, to be cared about, to have anybody even pay any attention to her. And she's among these hip, sort of sultry skinned partiers that are a common thing that we see in LA. And she has even left her pit bull rescue in her SUV because she just thinks the dog always steals all the attention. But she could see her audience waning, tongue drying out. She flipped up a wait a minute finger and stopped to take the last swig. The gin pickled her tongue as she swilled it down a tired throat. And denied connection, Izzy heads to this local mercado, these little stores at the end of the street where you can get more alcohol. But on the way, a tall, lean woman with a serpent tattoo stands under a melon streetlight, and they talk, and it quickly turns really intense. And I've seen that over and over again at dog parks, particularly in Pasadena. And it was just, I don't know if it's the tension of the long day, the commute that we used to have before COVID, and honestly, maybe some selfishness. I've really been trying to observe, but it come to blows. Midwestern dogs, by the way, are really different from LA dogs. And I suppose it's because of the people and the pressure, I don't know. But later in the story, when Izzy's overwhelmed, her decision to hand the dog over to the stranger helps her kind of lead the way into the next phase where things really change for her. So she couldn't even handle a poor defenseless dog. Now she'd face the night alone. Fresh sobs blurred her vision as she eased onto the 5. So the 5 North, where this becomes the story, is out where the 405, the 102, the 118 interchange are. There's a street that's way down below, and that's where the real life story meets with this fictional character, Izzy. The 5 arched upward into the purpling sky above an interstate crossing underneath it. She pulled over to the guardrail and wept in convulsive bursts. How was life so impossible? What was wrong with her? She pounded the steering wheel and asked the roof why. I wanted to examine the view from up there, looking down, what this experience would be like her at this guardrail, the whooshing cars coming by, the loud sounds, the intense energy she would have been feeling. High above the city lights, she was drawn to the sky, millions of flickers hovering between earth and air, like arriving planes coasting low over LA. Then looking down on all those shining orbs, lighting up the city's magnificent grid of car rivers rushing in a red and white glow. I'll leave you with that image. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. I had actually a quick question for you because I was really stuck on, excuse me, what you said about coming from the Midwest. It's kind of that whole big fish in a small pond versus small fish in a big pond. Do you find that it's harder to find big stories in a big town like this? Because you said small town, big stories seem magnificent, but what's the difference there?
I've really pondered that because if a car turned over, you know, on its end, and if a person was killed, unfortunately, that would be the whole world of the city where I'm from. But out here, I've driven by such a thing, and we just keep going. So because we have to, for one thing, but I mean because there's so much that it's like you say, what would you pick? I think that the stories that are bigger are usually very, very emotive or just horrifying. Sometimes there are stories of joy that we need, but it's usually the way dramatic is what I've noticed. I don't know what you think, but it just seems like the higher the drama, the more we're drawn to it.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. We're grateful to have you on in our anthology. And this is your first story, right?
The first
Published?
the first fiction story. I have had creative nonfiction, but it's the first fiction story. Yeah, I mean, I don't even think about that. That's really exciting.
Yes, that is really exciting. Congratulations.